Scientists have learned the following truth, and this is absolutely true. There are only 3 truly cool jobs on the entire planet. I turn to my long-suffering wife, Marie. Marie, did you know this? There are only 3 very cool jobs.
I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that think their job is pretty cool. So being that there is only 3, I'm real curious as to what these are going to be.
Okay, podcast host is not on the list.
Oh, man.
On the list, and these are not any particular order. There's 3 jobs, and so they're all kind of tied for the gold medal here. Firefighter.
Oh, I believe that.
Cool. Airline pilot.
For sure.
Absolutely. And the third one, Batman.
Oh, well, come on, man.
Yeah. I'm Batman.
You think you're Batman?
I'm Batman.
Oh, well, I beg to disagree, but...
I don't think I'm a firefighter.
Okay, I'll give you Batman. Okay. That is a pretty cool job.
So here on Voca...
But hold on. Was it really a job?
Batman?
He just was doing what he loved, fighting crime.
Well, he's a scientist too, so he's like a crime okay.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, Batman as a crime-fighting scientist and a firefighter and a pilot, these 3 are the cool, universally approved jobs of coolness that we've decided upon, that scientists of research said, if you're one of these 3 dudes, you're cool.
Sure.
We've got a pilot, check it out because we're Voca Vacay, we've got a pilot come on to talk to us during our part 2 of our 3-part frequent flyer series, which we're in the middle of right now.
Yes.
And what we're talking about is, we're going to go behind the scenes and talk to the guy who's basically you trust with your life when you're at 30,000 feet doing 500 miles an hour.
That's a lot of trust, man.
We've got the guy.
Awesome.
And we're going to talk in just a second. That's Marie over there.
That's Frank.
Voca Vacay starts right now.
Prepare yourself for the bestest, amazingest, and overall super duperest travel program in the history of ever. Vacation like it's your job and live vicariously through yourself. It's time now for Voca Vacay.
Okay, so it's not like, Batman, whether he exists or not, we don't know. But pilots certainly exist. And joining us right now, and this is from a major airline.
Yes, of which we will not disclose.
We will not disclose the name. But Captain Ted Morgan. Good morning, Captain.
Good morning. How are you guys today?
Doing great. We appreciate you sitting in because what we're doing here on Voca Vacay, we always tell people about, travel and vacation and basically just kind of getting out of the house. And with COVID happening right now, we're sort of looking at and talking about some other venues that kind of relate to it. And we always thought, wouldn't it be cool to bring a real life pilot on to talk about what flying is about? Because this COVID nonsense is going to end at some point and people will be back up in the air. And I'll bet you can't wait for that day when you're waiting for the planes to just fill up again, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. As soon as the flights fill up, we're going to be really excited for that. It's been a little bit slow going lately, so we're excited to get people back on and up in the air.
Sounds good. Here's what we're going to do.
I personally like flying. I'll tell you right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually hated it for so long because it made me so nervous. But now that I understand so much more about it, I won't lie, I'm still a little nervous about it. But I do miss going on a proper flight. There are just things about it that are fun,
So, Captain Ted, I got to ask you this. First, how does one go about becoming a pilot?
Yeah, I've always wondered this.
You don't just walk in. You've gone to not just regular school, but pilot school, advanced school. What are some of the steps it takes to get to that level where you're flying for a major airline?
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of steps to it. A lot of people, whenever they first kind of get into it, you'll see guys coming up through university, getting their degree in aviation, which is something that I did, and it was a really fulfilling endeavor, actually. But beyond that, what we can do is we become flight instructors, and that's how we build up our flight time, because there is a minimum hourly requirement before you are allowed to take the written exam to be an airline pilot, and that's $1,500. And flying airplanes is just not very cheap. So if we can defer to somebody else, we try to do that. So a lot of times you'll see guys that are flight instructors, banner towers. Anymore, you don't see a surplus of armed forces guys coming over to the airlines because so much of that is going to the drone style. And then as soon as you grind it out and get your private pilot as your first one, then you're going to be getting your instrument rating. So now you're going to be, instead of just being able to fly in clear skies, now you can fly in the clouds and in the weather. After that, you'll get your commercial certificate. So now you can finally start making money. And then you get your multi-engine rating. So now you can start flying airplanes with more than one engine. and then the flight instructor ticket. So it's kind of a long process. For someone going through university, it takes the full 4 years, but there are schools out there that do it in as little as 2, but it's very expensive.
No,
I had no idea that there were so many levels of getting up to just what we see every day as travelers, getting onto a plane and someone piloting us. Like, I had no idea. That's so interesting.
Yep. And as soon as you get on with the regional, the whole goal is to get on with the main lines. So even at the regional, you'll start at the bottom of the list, and you'll be first year, first officer, and you'll climb the ranks of seniority until you make captain. And then once you make captain, you start earning what we call PIC, or pilot in command time.
Mm-hmm.
And that time is very valuable because the pilot in command has the final authority of the aircraft. And so a lot of companies look at that as your most important experience, especially if it's jet time. So you'll take all that experience at the regional level, which, by the way, I think is one of the most difficult jobs in the industry, is being a regional captain, just because there's so many different, you're at small airports that are uncontrolled, or just different issues that aren't maybe a part of the mainline lifestyle. So you take all that and then you apply it to the mainline, and then just hope that somebody gives you a phone call. Really, there's no secret sauce to it. Just get your hours and try to get on the main line. And then once again, you'll start over at the very bottom of the seniority list. Every time you change jobs, you're going to start at the bottom. So we try to minimize switching in and out of airlines as much as possible.
Okay, so that's when you hear about these people who've been flying for a major airline like United or Delta or somebody like that. If someone's been there for about 30, 40 years, that's really the way to just move up the ranks, just stay with that one airline and just keep on going up?
Absolutely, because your seniority is everything. It's how you bid for your schedule. It's how you bid for your vacation. It's also plays a big part in how we get paid.
Wow. And that's the thing, is that your schedule kind of fascinates me. Let's just take COVID out of the equation for a hot second here, because one of the things we had to ask you was like, what do you do on a daily basis? How do you set your schedule? What's it like just what's a typical work shift for someone who's a pilot on a major airline? At
your level, like, because tell us what level you're at again. Like, you were talking about all these levels before.
Yes. So I've made it all the way through the ranks, and my current certificate rating, I'm called an ATP, airline transport pilot. So basically, I can fly much larger transport category airplanes, and I've got my multi-engine. So of course, they'll have more than one engine. And so, like I said, it just takes hours and hours and hours and years to get there. So
yeah. And then, so what do you do on a daily basis? Yeah.
So, like, as far as my schedule's concerned, what you want to look at, there's a difference between pilots. So there's what you call line pilots and another category called reserve pilots. So your line pilots are your guys who have been on the seniority list for a while, and they bid on their schedules monthly based on their seniority. So if you have really high seniority, you're the guy flying to Hawaii and Cancun every day.
Wow.
Yeah, who are mid to lower seniority are flying to Newark and JFK in the winter. So, and then below all those guys, you have your reserve pilots, which is usually your most junior pilots on the sheet. And what those reserve pilots use for, if a line pilot calls out sick or doesn't make a commute or get into work on time, the airline will call in a reserve pilot, and he will be at the airplane within 2 hours of being called.
Oh, wow.
So those guys are just standing by, ready to go at all times. That way we can make sure your flights go out on time.
Oh, man, that's really cool. And I can tell that you were an instructor before, because you're explaining this really well. Like, even I'm following it, I'm able to understand it. And so, yeah, that's pretty cool. So how long is a typical shift?
Some of the reserve lines can be, we work a maximum of 6 days in a row. That's a rest requirement thing. So once we work 6 in a row, we have to have 30 hours free of all duty.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the big thing. 6 is the most. You can also get anything awarded as short as just a day trip, quick out and back somewhere. Let's say I do Los Angeles to Seattle and back, and that's my whole day. That's possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm a commuter. So what that means is I don't live in the city I'm based in.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's really common for airline pilots. You got a lot of guys that don't live in Fresno or Phoenix or I even know a few guys in Cincinnati that are based in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So we fly to and from work, and that's how we commute to and from work. A lot of us. I don't know exact numbers, but uh, I mean, I hate to say 50%, but it's a good chunk of pilots actually commute to and from work.
So when you have to commute to where you're going to be shifted out of, like to take your shift, like do you get paid when you start and take that commute flight, or only when you get to take your shifted flight?
The way the companies that I have worked at operate, you only get paid when the main boarding door is shut and the parking brake is off.
Ah, okay.
So that's why the big rush for everybody. Get on, sit down. We got to go. I want to get paid.
So basically, while we're just slowly putting things safely in the overhead compartment, taking our time, and finally saying that your meter has not started yet. Nothing happens for you until you hit the emergency brake release button and you start rolling backwards.
That's correct. Yep.
Wow.
Yep,
okay.
yep.
We'll go faster next time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel a little bad. On behalf of all the slower people that are slower than us, I feel really bad because we're actually pretty good about getting on and off a plane.
We're actually limited. The Department of Transportation doesn't want us leaving 10 minutes prior to our scheduled departure time. So we try to keep it within reason, especially when we're trying to help out our fellow commuters, because it's a very much give and take service. You know, I try to help guys out and they try to help us out. So if we leave early and leave somebody, that's bad form. And we're a big family, so we try to take care of each other and leave on time.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I've got to ask is that, so if you are going early or going late, there is a ripple effect, right? Like once your plane is coming out of the gate too early or coming in too late or something like that, there's like a master control operator who is basically tallying every flight going in and out. So if you are too early or too late, that does impact other flights throughout the day, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And it can also widely affect an airport. So a lot of times what happens when planes start getting backed up is on the ground is we call that flow. And so let's just use Seattle as a for instance. Whenever there's an airplane that has a maintenance delay at the gate, and so that gate's occupied. Well, now the inbound flight can't take that gate. It's got to sit on the ground and wait. And it, like you said, it causes that ripple effect. So you'll start getting more and more airplanes sitting on the ground, and then let's say weather blows in too. And so now we're doing low visibility approaches, and airplanes need extra spacing. Well, what they have to start doing is they'll start spacing those airplanes out in the air. And you'll a lot of times fly, we call it holding patterns, but it's just big racetracks, big circles in the sky, or air traffic control, ATC, can tell you to pull your speed back, or they'll vector you, turn you off of your course, all kinds of different things they can do to help slow the flow into the airport.
Wow, that's really interesting.
So when we're looking at because we're shooting this in February, and if we're looking at, say, a snowstorm that's coming in the upper Midwest or something like that, something that's snowing in Chicago can definitely impact, say, a flight out of Albuquerque or El Paso or something like that by the time all the cards get sorted out.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Whenever there's a major delay at any major hub, Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago, JFK, Seattle, all those airports, it will cause a national airspace issue.
Oh man. Yeah. It's like, from my perspective, as someone that's just like, traveling, just a passenger, I can tell when there's been some, if we have a delay. I also can feel from the desk agents, and then also on the plane, the flight attendants, like some more tension, like something that they seem a little more like worried about it. I guess it's because it's exactly what you're talking about. It's affecting so much more down the line and rippling. If I feel stressed, you guys must really feel it when something like this happens.
Yeah, those gate agents are some of the hardest working people in the industry. They try really hard to make a lot of people happy when they have reason to be very unhappy about things.
Always be nice to your gate agents and your flight attendants and your pilots. Be nice to everybody out there, because I think the whole goal that everybody's just trying to get everyone there happy and on time if possible and have a good experience. And it's not like you guys intentionally are saying, hey, we're stuck here on the ground for another 15 minutes. You guys don't wake up and do that on purpose.
Yeah. I don't want to be there sitting on the ground any more than you do. I want to get to the destination, because the sooner we get this going, the sooner I get to go home and see the family. So
yeah.
So on a daily basis, what are your favorite, what's the favorite tasks, or what are your favorite parts of the job? And what are the parts of the job you look at and go, I got to do that again?
Well, I gotta say, flying the airplane is that's the whole reason anybody even gets into the job.
Mm-hmm.
So, because there are moments in your career where you will be doing things because you love flying, not necessarily because of anything that's attached to it. So just staying humble and enjoying that. And I like to go back and fly general aviation airplanes sometimes, along with the large transport category airplanes, because it just brings you back to your roots and, lets you really just enjoy it. And it kind of takes it away from being a career and just being fun. Something else I really enjoy is overnights with the crew, building camaraderie. There's nothing like having a tough day, fighting the weather, fighting passengers, and landing in Fort Lauderdale, and all right, everybody out, let's go get some dinner and enjoy the night, So that's always fun.
And you talk about the crew, that's not just the people up on the flight deck, that's flight attendants and everybody. I mean, that's one big team, right?
It is. It's a big team, and like I said, we all treat each other like family, or try to anyway, because you'll get into spats with family, but that's all right.
Like any job.
Oh yeah.
Captain Ted, I noticed you didn't talk about any of the tasks that you sort of don't like as much.
Yeah, well, it's always more fun to talk about the stuff you like than the stuff you don't, but
okay. Just had to ask.
I would say commuting is probably the absolute worst part, because a lot of times it's space available. So you may look at a flight and go, oh crap, that flight's full. So you go up to the next earlier flight and that one's full, and the next earlier flight and that one's full. And you're like, oh my God, I'm going to spend a whole day off commuting to work. And that's kind of a bummer, right? But it's part of the job, and it's what we do. Another thing I don't really care for is bidding for my schedule. There's a couple different ways to do that. Different companies have different programs to run, and I don't particularly like my company's version of it. So there you go.
But no, now I'm understanding so much more. Every time that we're on a flight and there's a pilot or two sitting with regular passengers, I've always thought, oh, well, I mean, I don't know what I thought, but I've always just, wondered why they're sitting with us and not up and,
They're going to work, basically.
I know, I had no idea. This totally makes sense.
That's got to be, I got to ask, that's got to be a major hassle around the holidays like Thanksgiving or Christmas, when those are typically the big flying, the big flying weeks, and suddenly you have to get to your job and you may not live near your job. So does that equate into your travel schedule?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I very much take a lot of holidays into my planning for my commutes. Also, Super Bowl Sunday's coming up, so you have to plan accordingly around that.
Yeah.
I know it sounds funny, but where is the Final Four located, or big PGA golf tournaments? I wouldn't want to be going to Atlanta or anywhere in Georgia with the Masters going on, So it's you kind of have to have your pulse on what's happening in pop culture as far as that's concerned, because it has to do with you getting to work.
Wow.
It's like when you say that, I'm like, absolutely. But I don't think I've ever really put that together. And people travel so much to see their teams. I mean, I bet that's a challenge.
Yeah. I am very much not looking forward to the Olympics coming to Los Angeles.
Yeah. Good point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hadn't thought about that. Well, here's the deal. One person I do have to ask you about is the old TV movies, you always had three guys up on the flight deck. You had a pilot, a co-pilot, and a navigator. What happened to that guy? Did we just get rid of him, or is the technology so good you don't need anyone to read the maps anymore?
It's a little bit of all of that, actually. So I'll take it back even a little bit further, and we'll do a little bit of a history lesson here. So way back in the day, flight crews typically had 5 members. There was the captain, the first officer, the flight engineer, the navigator, and the radio operator.
Huh.
Wow.
And you see that a lot of like on transcontinental flights, like in Constellations and Lockheed Electras and that kind of thing. And it was that way until about the mid 1950s. And then after that, the first thing to go was the radio operator, because the radios became a lot smaller and a lot more reliable as time had gone on.
Mm-hmm.
So by the 1960s, they were gone. And then after that was the navigator. So I think they got rid of the navigator about 10 years after that, in the later 1960s. It's actually kind of funny because when they used to do transatlantic flights or transoceanic of any kind, really, they still used the sextant as late as the 1960s.
No kidding.
Yes. So if you actually look in a few older style airplanes, a lot of 7.2s, even some of the 737s still have this, but they have these eyebrow windows on top of the cockpit. And it's so you can see out the top of the cockpit and see the stars. So that's kind of interesting. But by the mid 1970s, there had been really, really good technological advances. And so the navigators took a hike too, because we started to develop a source of radio land-based navigation. And so that took a big part of that. And then finally, the last guy that you're talking about, he was called a flight engineer.
Okay.
And he ran a lot of the systems in the airplane while the pilots flew, operated the radios, and navigated. And basically, with the coming of the jet age in the 70s, there was just really, he was redundant. And so as a cost-saving measure, he was eliminated.
Wow. And so now it's down to pilot and co-pilot, but just be, I imagine just as an FAA safety issue, you're always going to have those 2 guys up in the front seats.
For now, Airbus is currently working on a project to be single pilot in some of their fleet. And I don't know if that holds any water for the future, not the near future anyway. But I know they're making more and more of a push to go to a single pilot operation, but I think that's a poor idea.
Yeah, I always feel better with another guy up there.
or gal.
Or gal. I'm just saying guys in a pilot, but yeah, I always,
right.
In case something happens, I want someone else to jump in.
Somebody please come keep me company. It's a long flight,
Well, okay. So
that's interesting though, because as technology changes, sometimes jobs become scarce. So I too feel way more comfortable knowing that there's a couple of people up there.
Yeah.
I guess if you want to think about it, the flight engineer kind of became the automated kiosk you use at McDonald's, something like that. So. Oh,
wow. That's a great way to describe it. And if there are 2 pilots up front, and I've got to ask, I know I just have thrown these little trick questions for you. Is it true that you guys have to eat different items or different meals in case like the chicken is bad on a particular flight?
Right. I'll have to check the exact regulation. I'm not for certain on that. It sounds familiar. And I know they do always, when they serve us crew meals, they serve us different food. So I don't know the exact legal answer, but
okay. No, that's
there
fair.
You go.
That's fair. It's just, I always wondered, like, I think the great movie Airplane had that thing where the pilots ate the same dish and they all got sick. And so I didn't,
yeah. Did you have the chicken or the fish? Right. I had the lasagna. Yeah.
That's the extent of my airline trend. Okay.
But do you get to pick your meal, or do they just give you what's left over after everybody picked through it that's in the cabin?
Here's the deal. It's airplane food. I almost just go buy something in the terminal building because I'm good.
Yeah. Understood.
Okay. Now, let's say we're flying along, there's clouds, there's turbulence, and the pilot, you guys have this calm, reassuring voice that there's going to be a couple of bumps coming up. I'm just going to, at what point when you're coming on, at what point should I panic? I mean, really just a few bumps, and do we just feel the bounces more than we should, or are you used to it? Or at what point do we just go, it's really, really bumpy out there?
I don't think there's any time a passenger should be panicked about turbulence. I think a lot of the fear of turbulence comes from not understanding or not knowing exactly what's going on or being out of control of their own destiny. Basically, they tell us, "Hey, go fly the airplane. You just have to ride in the back and take it." So, I think that's the biggest problem with it, is there's just not enough education. And I don't know where you pick that up from, but not everybody takes a mandatory weather course in college. So
I panic early and often, and that is exactly why I used to, is because I had no understanding of how any of this worked. And now, like, understanding so much more of it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's all good.
So, yeah, if people want to think about the air, they need to think of it as a fluid, just like a body of water. It has irregular motion, it has eddies, and it has currents, and it's a three-dimensional thing. So up, down, side to side, all that. So whenever people start thinking of it like water, like when you get on a boat, you don't just hop on the boat and say, all right, this is going to be like glass, So there's a couple different types of turbulence, and I can kind of go into them a little bit here. The first one is like a mechanical turbulence. So that's friction between the air and the ground, and that's especially like irregular terrain or man-made buildings and obstacles. It causes those eddies and the turbulence at the lower levels. And so a lot of times, like on the backside of a mountain range, the air will come up over that mountain, and then it makes a big mountain wave on the backside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And so you're flying through these waves of air. And so you'll see that in places like Denver and Palm Springs. That'll be why it could be rough going into locations like that. Another type of turbulence is thermal turbulence or convective turbulence. You can expect this like on warm days because the Earth's surface heats unevenly. So things like asphalt parking lots, the desert, stuff like that, heats more rapidly than, say, a grass-covered field or water. So that rapidly rising air is you're flying through pockets of it, whereas there's rapidly descending air on the other side of it.
Okay.
So that's a thermal. Usually those are glider pilots really like thermally days when it's really rough outside for everybody else, because that rising air is rising faster than the glider can fall.
Oh, interesting.
So that's how gliders are able to climb.
Wait, do you have a glider certification in your back pocket?
I do.
I knew it.
That is one really cool thing. I think that's really cool. It terrifies me to think of it because, again, I don't understand enough of the science behind it, but I know if you're doing it, it's got to be cool and safe.
That's the name of the game, is the safety of it. So,
well, that's the thing is that we always ask the question about how safe is flying compared to other forms of transportation. I think the comeback tends to be you have more of a chance of having an accident driving to the airport than you do when you're up in the air.
Right. Yes. So I actually have a few statistics on that. I mean, the odds of death, just to be as macabre as possible right off the bat.
Right.
If you're doing a car trip coast to coast, it's 1 in 14,000. If you're using a U.S. commercial airline, it's 1 in 7 million.
Oh my gosh.
That's according to the University of California at Berkeley and Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So,
wow,
it's very, very rare.
That makes me want to fly more.
I know.
and we fly a good bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, here's the thing. In my old age, man, I can't stay in the car too much longer than, 3 or 4 hours, or I start to just get buggy. I'm like, I'm done with this. I'd much rather fly.
And on that plane, you get a movie. There's something on the back of the seat in front of you. So it's like, I'm totally watch, this sort of stuff.
And you get, like, if you have a really cool captain.
Yeah.
You get the really cool, like, captain voice. Can you do the cool captain voice for us?
Oh boy, the cool captain voice.
Yeah, like when you hit 10,000 feet. I mean, what's that reassuring voice where it's like, and now we're what do you usually say?
Yeah.
Let's make it fun. Let's just say we're gonna go into Vegas, right? We're gonna go party it up and have fun. Mm-hmm. Everybody's always in a good mood going there. So on the descent, going through, 18,000 feet, I'll ding the seatbelt sign so that the flight attendants know, hey, we're going into a sterile cockpit. That means that we're not talking about anything outside of our flight-related duties. So, and that's just for safety purposes. But they know not to bother us at that point unless it's an emergency. If it's an emergency, by all means, please call me and tell me this problem.
Sure.
So I'll ding in, I'll pop on. I say, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon from the flight deck. Looks like we're about 30 minutes outside of Las Vegas. Seatbelt sign is coming on shortly, so if you need to organize your belongings or utilize the lavatory, this will be your final opportunity to do so. Looks like the weather in Vegas today, winds are out of the west about 10 miles an hour, clear skies, and a temperature of 72 degrees. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you today for flying with us on Brand X Airlines. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for arrival.
Now, do you actually, does that go through your mind in your sleep? You've said it so much.
There's a cadence to it. So,
yeah, sure.
I got to ask, now when you have like, the wife, the kids, the family, people coming around and you have to go to the supermarket and they call you and it's like, I forgot, you got to get buttermilk also. Do you ever come back with, actually you told me to get eggs, bread, and sugar. I'm only picking, I mean, do you ever get to use the pilot's voice at home outside of the pilot area?
Well, my wife gets a little grumpy with me because when we're talking to air traffic control versus whenever we're talking to the passengers, it's two different things. When I'm talking to passengers, I want you to feel calm and I've got control of it and everything's great. And with air traffic control, they want a certain amount of information and they want it right now, and then they want you to shut up. So
yeah,
clear the airwaves. So she'll get mad at me sometimes because I'll come home and I'll just be talking like this in just a mile a minute, and that's all they need to know, and I'm starting to talk about it. So there you go.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, like for instance, here I can just give you so let's say I'm calling air traffic control and I want to get a clearance to Seattle. So I'll say, clearance, good morning, Brand X flight 245 cleared Seattle, Lady J forecast rush MRAS 5 climb via the SID. Departure frequency 124.3 squawking 6768. And they're like, okay, read back correct. Life's good.
I have no idea what you just said. That is something I bet. Oh man, I feel for your wife because she could probably tweet a lot about this and be like #pilot's wife. Like,
oh yeah. So and she's like, just slow down. I don't want to be air traffic control. You annoy me.
Oh, that's funny.
And I try to not do that to her, but you just kind of get on a roll. So it is what it is.
Now, when you get home to the family, it's all well and good. Because we were going to ask, what's your favorite airport? And I was afraid the response would be my home airport, because that means I'm home. So I'm going to take that off the table. Besides your home airport, what is your personal favorite airport in the United States?
In the States, it's probably Salt Lake City. It's easy to get in. It's easy to get out. There's very little flow. It's got decent food, and I can almost always make my commute. So I'd say probably Salt Lake City. I really like flying in out of there.
That's cool, and that's really good reasons.
Should we ask if there's any airports he wants to skip out of in the future?
Yeah, do it.
Any airports, it's just like, okay.
No, okay. Well, Newark, JFK, oh God, anything in New York is just pass. New York is just a struggle. Seattle, I don't really care for Seattle because the terminal layout's not great. Los Angeles is still under construction 100 years later.
It always has been.
But other than that, Chicago. Did anybody say Chicago yet?
No.
There's a very specific rule in Chicago when you land and you're taxiing around, you don't stop. That's the number one rule in Chicago. Don't stop. If you miss your turnoff, don't stop. Keep rolling. It's a big circle. You're going to come back around to it. So that's the rules.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, it's okay. In Chicago, don't do it. You'll get yelled at. Promise.
Oh man.
No kidding. Okay. All this information. Ooh, this is handy. I'd love having this stuff on Voca Vacay. Let's say you're in the air. Everything's going okay. Flight attendant dings you, bings you, calls you, texts you, however you guys communicate up there, and says, we've got a problem with the passenger. And I know that since 9/11, it's different. I'm sure since COVID now, that's a whole nother layer of fun for you guys. At what limit can you exercise some authority to maintain control of the flight and the people on the plane?
Well, as the pilot in command, you have the authority you can pull it over anytime you deem it necessary. That's part of the nice part about being the pilot in command. You can exercise emergency authority at any time for any reason. It's warranted. So that being said, if I've got a guy having a heart attack in the back and he's not going to make it, we're gonna pull over and get it on the ground as soon as possible. Try to help the guy out.
Sure.
Something else we can do, because a lot of times it's not that severe, obviously, is we can call a company called MedLink on the radio. And so what it is, it's a bunch of doctors in Phoenix, and they patch us through to them, and our flight attendants can talk to these doctors about symptoms, what to do, what's going on, that kind of thing. So there actually is professional medical help on the phone with the flight attendants whenever there's a medical issue.
That's pretty cool. I had no idea. Yeah.
Other than that, for security issues, you betcha. If we're having a passenger who is wanting to be a security issue, trying to get in the flight deck door, anything like that, we're declaring an emergency and we're putting it on the ground. Period.
Do you have any favorite types of passengers? Like somebody comes on the plane, you're standing there and you're like, that's really nice. Like, or they look like a lot of fun.
I mean, you're not going to see us otherwise just when we come in and get off the plane.
It depends, because there's days when, people are genuinely interested in the job and they want to talk to you and know all about it. Probably the number one question, I get two questions very commonly. Where is baggage claim? and what is your route? And I got to tell you, don't ask any crew members what their route is, because that's not how it works. We bid for our schedules, and so we have constantly changing destinations, and especially reserve guys, they don't have a clue what they're doing. They might go to Honolulu today and Anchorage tomorrow, and who knows.
Yeah.
So there's those people that just will not shut up.
And you're like, I kind of have a plane to fly, so gotta go.
An old fellow one time. I was on a commute and I was in uniform, and I'm jamming out, listening to music, looking out the window, and this old man sitting behind me reaches up and pulls out my earbud.
What?
Right? Yeah. And is like, how do you like flying airplanes? Yeah, it's great, buddy.
Oh.
Something I can help you with, like.
People got no manners. Let's just say.
And you have to be
bad.
You have to be nice. You're in uniform. It's not like we say, hey, you can't be like us. I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt and some flip flops when I'm on a plane, so I can buzz off. You have to be polite and professional.
Oh yeah. I gotta sit there and be like, well, it's a great job, love it. I'm just trying to take a nap, so don't mind me.
How many times do you get asked in a month, let's say, from a parent, can my son or daughter come up in the cockpit and see what you do and learn about how to fly?
Well, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of parents are a little gun shy about it, and I think it's this culture that we cultivated that we don't want anybody near the flight deck, and that's
right.
Not the case at all. We want kids up there. We want them to come up, and we hand out wings and take pictures, and they can feel the controls, and we'll turn all the lights on, and
Aww.
the airplane talks to us too, so we'll have it say a few words. It's actually kind of funny in the Airbus. They go retard, so we try to stay away from that one, but
yeah,
it's to make sure we pull the thrust levers back when we land.
Right. Now
that's really sweet though. That's really cool. Yeah.
So we love having people up there. A lot of times we have adults with a fear of flying will often make an appearance. Hey, just wanted to meet my pilots. My name's Phil. Scared of flying. Please take care of us. Wow. Yeah, buddy, no problem. Here's the weather. We're expecting a few bumps, but it's not that big a deal. Should be good to go. And the third group, sometimes we'll get celebrities that pop in and say hello.
Oh.
Most recently, I had World Cup champion and two-time Olympic gold medalist Hope Solo came in, and we took some pictures with her and said hey, and she was really nice. So we love having people up there. Please feel free to come up and say hello. Kind of, I guess I say that because I know how I like to run my flight deck, but unless you're flying with Captain Happy, and then probably don't do that, because some guys can be a little grumpy, but that's okay. Because we're the stewards of this career, and we want to make sure that little kids say, "Oh man, pilot! I want to be a pilot."
Yeah,
it's how we make sure people stay interested and stay involved. So that's what we're going.
That is so cool. Now,
that's nice.
Because when we're thinking about the pilot's life and all the, I'm thinking of all the glamorous movies starting from the 50s, 60s, 70s, all the, oh, the pilot is there. So when you're not piloting, when you're either commuting or you're like the day before a flight or the day after, my presupposition is that you're staying at a 5-star luxury hotel. And it's like a James Bond kind of like, well, I told you one of the coolest jobs ever is going to be pilot or Batman.
Right,
and so I always expect this Batman-like experience was like, I'm Batman. I'm here.
I'm a pilot. I'm here.
Yeah. So it really is that cool, right?
Well, and it's like if you deal with you deal with all this stuff, like a lot of stress every day. You have to
Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah,
for
time. Sure.
Every time.
Treat yourself, man.
Yeah. Is that what it's like?
I mean, I wish it was that way. But I would say, no, overall, we stay at Hilton or a Hilton equivalent.
Yeah.
About that level. So it's not by any means, bed bugs and dirty sheets. They're nice hotels. For like a long stay in an overnight, they'll put us in probably a nice downtown area. That way there's plenty for us to get out and do and eat and that kind of thing. But if it's a short overnight, it's almost always going to be right next to the airport, so we can get in, get our rest, and get out.
Right. That makes sense.
Now, the other thing I have to ask, and you can stop me at any time, but I've got to ask about these long flights, because when there's a long flight and I'm in the back and I'm waiting for meal service, the first meal service, then it's like first lunch, second lunch, 11Z's, high tea, whatever, because they keep feeding me. Do you guys just hang out and look at clouds? I mean, what do you do? Because we've got movies in the back. I don't know what you guys are doing, but what do you do the whole time? Is it just on autopilot? You just hanging out or what?
Yeah, definitely not Netflix. They might get grumpy with us on that. Also, not the internet. We're not on the internet either. Because,
okay.
Big no-no. A lot of times, if you are departing a larger base for the company, so like let's say there's over 400 pilots, there's a really good chance that you haven't flown with the guy before. So a lot of times when I show up at the flight deck, I'm meeting that first officer or that captain for the first time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then once you get up out of sterile, we start talking, and you find out guys have a side hustle, or you'll have a common hobby, whether it's surfing or cars or golf or guns or stock market or anything like that. And you just kind of get to know each other. And so that's another reason why it feels like such a large family sometimes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But usually by the end of the 4-day trip, you know everything you need to know about each other, and you're best friends. And okay, well, see you next week, Bob. All right, thanks, Chris. Till next time.
I love it.
Catch you on that Vegas flight. Oh, wait. Last question I'm going to ask. Then we'll ask about COVID, just a general overview. But I've got to ask about Vegas. You talk about, have you flown into Vegas? Was that McCarran Airport there?
Yes.
Yes. And this is we're doing a 3-part series here on frequent flyers, and we did ask the flight attendant this question, structured kind of like flying into Las Vegas. There's a certain ramped up attitude, and then flying back is a different demeanor for most of the passengers. Do you feel that on the flight deck? I mean, when you're going, hey, it's a party, it's Carnival Cruises, then after that, it's like,
oh God, I lost all my money. The world sucks.
Do you have a sense that, because he said it was worse than Orlando, so what are your thoughts on that?
Worse than Orlando.
Well, then Orlando is even, oh no, Orlando was worse because the family goes and everybody's sunburnt and they're broke and the kids are screaming.
Right.
What's your experience with places like that?
There is definitely a clear difference from the people getting off from the people getting on.
I knew it.
So, I mean, usually departing out of there, like, we'll keep our in-flight announcements maybe a little more minimalistic. Keep the lights down. Keep it nice and cool back there. You know, we don't want anybody getting sick on the airplane.
Oh,
so
God. Yeah.
They're pouring them into the seats back there.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun, but sometimes yeah, you'll see a few people and you're like, ooh, buddy, welcome aboard.
All right. Well, Captain Ted, just the final wrap-up question. We touched that at the start of the interview, and we do appreciate you taking the time. As far as COVID, we're waiting for things to get back. What have you seen? Because obviously back last March, I guess, was when it really started hitting kind of, hard and heavy for everybody. Are you seeing people coming back in the seats? And I know there's protective measures, but how do you hope this ends? Or when do you think it's going to end, or do you have any knowledge on that?
I mean, well, the federal government has stepped in now, and they have made a mask mandate for transportation services such as airplanes. So mask wearing is absolutely mandatory, no doubt about it, and that's fine. It's not comfortable for a lot of people, but flying's a privilege. So
yeah,
we really want to try to make people feel as safe as possible, because the airlines are really struggling right now. I think the last number I saw, there's over 250,000 airline employees that are either furloughed or on extended leaves of absence for very reduced or no pay. This is much worse than 9/11 for the industry, actually.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
But people are coming back, right? I mean, are you seeing more passengers in the airports?
It depends on the route. Yes, but it's tough to say, because whenever COVID first hit, I wish I could send you guys some pictures. It was a ghost town, terrifying. It was like the zombie apocalypse. There wasn't 5 whole people in the airport. It was awful, and it's very much starting to come back very slowly. I know we have had a few sales, and it's increased the booking significantly over the past couple months. Low-cost carriers and ultra-low-cost carriers like Frontier, Spirit, and Allegiant, they're all doing better, mostly because there's no international market for them, so they aren't taking a hit there. And a lot of that's leisure travel as opposed to business travel. So business travel is still struggling. But, I mean, like I said, we're just doing everything possible to make people feel safe and be safe in the airplane. Something a lot of people don't understand is that there's new air in the cabin every 2 minutes.
Oh,
It's not recycled and recirculated air. That's a myth. We use hospital grade HEPA filters. We actually have enhanced cleaning services between flights. The airplanes have never been this clean since they were new. They've never been this clean. So if we can just convince people that it's safe, and according to major studies, it is. It's safe to get on the airplane. It's safe to go places. We want to take you, and so we're all hoping that it passes soon. Bring everybody back to their jobs and get airlines up and going again.
Yeah, because I've read both sides of this. Like, some articles come out and say totally safe, and some come out and say, yeah, not so much really. And so it's good to hear a perspective from someone that's actually in there doing it, because I trust that a lot. And I didn't know about like new air every 2 minutes and like all of this stuff. And that really puts me at ease, because I'll tell you this, I'm really ready to go somewhere. Like, at first I was all excited about COVID. Well, I wasn't excited about COVID, but I was excited to to work at home, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm working at home, I can do this. And
We
this
can-
is
we
like,
got this,
this is great, you know, but now I know if I'm feeling it now, and this is like, you know, February, if I'm feeling it now, I know, and people were really feeling it just months in, like I'm really itching to go somewhere. I am done with the home stuff right now. So that really puts my mind at ease. I'm glad you talked about that.
Yeah. So it's I hope more people hear it and want to go do it. It'd be a really good thing for a lot of families if we could get the airlines up and running. So
Yeah.
Well, we're hoping to fly. We have tentative flights scheduled April.
Yeah.
But we have something coming up, and we're going to try to sneak away on that. So hopefully, you know, we would love to get back up in the air. We're encouraging everyone. It's a comfort level thing, but as we're coming over this hurdle that is COVID, hopefully people just say, hey, let's get this industry back because we love to fly. And if people are nervous about flying or what, don't be. It's safer than driving. Berkeley and MIT said so.
It's kind of funny because the airlines originally, when they were created, hauled the mail. And
yeah.
during COVID, that's one of the only things that has kept many airlines solvent is hauling the mail again. Wow. So we've actually gone right back to our roots, and we haul a lot of mail, a lot of freight, a lot of fish, cargo, all that good stuff. So
full circle. I love it. I actually love that. That is really cool.
I had no idea. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But still, you know, passengers, hopefully they'll be coming back very, very soon.
Can't wait.
Well, Captain Ted Morgan, appreciate you taking the time. Are there any parting words you want to leave our listening audience with here on Voca Vacay?
Oh, wait. Before we get to that, I want to ask something. Captain Ted Morgan.
Captain
How
Ted
many
Morgan.
times a day do people joke and say, my captain's Captain Morgan?
Oh, Captain Morgan. I can't tell you how many high fives and all that. I've had people demanding free booze, that too. A quick story, and I'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
No, you're fine.
I was flying for the regional out of Detroit, and I got on the airplane, and I was Captain Morgan, and I had a first officer boozer.
No.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was like, should I have the flight attendant not announce our name?
That's too perfect.
This just not going great.
The flight from Vegas to Cancun is fully booked. I wonder why.
Oh, yeah.
Captain Morgan
or
and Boozer.
Vegas, either way.
There you go.
Oh, God, I love it. All right. Any parting words, any words of wisdom, any advice you want to give any of us out there that are just, you know, back in the cabin, trusting you to fly us around and take us to places?
Oh, I would just say, just do what makes you comfortable, you know, as long as you're not bothering the people next to you.
Yeah. Yeah. We've encountered a little bit of that. I'm sorry. Say that again.
I said maybe just practice a little self-control, you know.
Yes, sir.
There you go. For me, the problem is always screaming babies and my headset doesn't work, but otherwise it's fine.
Don't scream back at them. That's not really, people don't care for that.
No, and you lose every time. Babies don't understand. It's they'll keep going. There's no.
And then the next thing you know, you're the one getting booted off, even though it's the baby screaming.
Right. Where's the fairness? Where's the justice in that? Captain Ted Morgan, thank you so much for taking time off your major airline duties. We appreciate stopping in at Voca Vacay.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I really appreciate the time. Thanks, guys.
Have a great rest of the week. Thanks so much. And, you know, that is Captain. Here's the important thing. Captain Ted Morgan flies with a major airline, and he said, hey, that everything there you've heard, that is not an actor or a stunt double or something. That is the guy who actually does this for a living. Very cool for him to stop in.
Yeah, that was really cool, and we're really lucky that we know someone that was willing to come talk about this stuff, because that's great. What we want to know. Like, we love travel. This is, you know, a travel podcast, but we kind of want to know the deets.
Yeah.
Give me the deets.
Darn right. Okay, so that being said, hey, we're going to wrap this up. Remember, check us out on social media. That means Facebook and YouTubes and Tweeters and Instagrams.
All of the socials.
Darn right. And hey, vacation like it's your job.
And live vicariously through yourself.
Darn right. Thanks for playing along. That's Marie over there.
That's Frank.
And we will see you in a fortnight on behalf of Voca Vacay. It's that Captain Morgan again. Love ya, miss ya, mean it. Bye.
Don't forget to click subscribe. As always, hashtag Voca Vacay at Voca Vacay and visit VocaVacay.com.